Hello to all of you from around the world. I want to thank you for joining this great edition of Soulivity today. We're broadcasting live from our studio right here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. My name is Brian Wesley Johnson, and whether you're at home or driving or at work, we're always glad you're here with us. We have another amazing show for you today. I'm joined today by Sheila Applegate, host of Consciously Awesome Living, which broadcasts each Wednesday at 12 noon. Hello, Sheila.
Hello.
And our very special guest co-host today, Muni, who's a sought-after speaker, event producer, coach, and business strategist. Welcome back, brother.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here. Nice to see you.
Listen, everybody, this is a great show. I want to make sure that we have a lot of room, a lot of time to talk about everything that's going on. Today, we're going to be talking about the real experience of Alzheimer's and dementia for those with the diseases and the caregivers who give the support necessary to their loved ones. Now, guys, I know that both of you are, you have your own life stories around this. And so I'm so glad that both of you are here to kind of give insight into the larger dynamics of everything that goes on with the people who are afflicted by the disease, as well as people like both of you who are caregivers at one point. Just want to start off with some facts, right, to kind of level set everything here. Worldwide, 55 million people are living with Alzheimer's and other dementias. Alzheimer's disease is a degenerative brain disease, and that it's the most common form of dementia. Dementia is not a specific disease. It's an overall term that describes a group of symptoms, right? And Alzheimer's disease, in terms of some more facts and figures around this, an annual report released by the Alzheimer's Association reveals that the burden of Alzheimer's and dementia on individuals, caregivers, government, and the nation's healthcare system here in America shows that this is something that is not going away. It's something that's going to be here with us, and that we need to have more conversations about this to make sure that we're giving everyone the information on new treatments, on new ways of coping with loved ones that have the disease themselves, and move the ball forward, because this doesn't affect all groups of people the same way, based upon like social economic status and that kind of thing. So kind of want to begin, Muni, talking about your experience. Can you give our audience a little bit of background about the loved one that was afflicted by the disease, and maybe the early experiences that you had with that loved one?
Sure. Yeah. So in this case, it's my mom. If I had to put a timeline on when things became like obvious that things were happening, but we didn't quite get it yet, it would have been like as far back as 2016. And prior to that, she was, like high functioning, uh, you know, high profile job, very aware of details, almost eidetic memory, certain things that were part of her personality that became everything started to fall off a little bit. And it was just subtle enough that you could write it off. You'd be like, oh, she's just becoming forgetful, or oh, she didn't remember, or oh, we forgot to tell her, or this or that. And then I think as things started to get a little bit more intense, she was kind of on her own for a while. And then I think the pandemic really highlighted and really gave everyone a really clear view of how far things had gone, to the point where personal care was becoming a problem, like general paperwork, paying bills, keeping on top of correspondence became a problem. Just all sorts of functional things that still, to a degree, a lot of people in my family and a lot of people that would encounter it, you wouldn't necessarily notice
Wow.
that it was more like the behind the scenes stuff. So if you were paying attention, you would see it, and you would be able to see it if you wanted to see it. Meaning, if you were open to the concept that there may be a problem, you'd see it really quickly. If you were
Right.
not open to the concept of seeing a problem, you would gloss right over it and just write it off as like, oh, she's just forgetful. Um, so
Wow.
I think it became really acute during the pandemic. We had a couple of interventions from people who are not in our family who noticed things and were really concerned and brought this to our attention. And then it took me a while to even take on board the concept that this was happening. And then once we started looking into what types of tests can we get done? What types of specialists does she need to see? Do we need to shift from general practitionership into more of a geriatrician type relationship with her medical team? Then all of a sudden things became more clear. They were able to point out specific behaviors, specific things, specific red flags to look out for. And then when we started going through the list, it was like, yes, we have that one. Yes, we've got this one. And it was like that slow uh, creeping dread through that meeting of saying, okay, I think, yes, based on everything you're telling me, we have something we got to pay attention to here. And then you kind of just, in my experience, I just went into I'm gonna fix it mode. You know what I mean? Like that was my default
Right.
thing. And I think
Right.
that's years of
Right.
being a project manager, years of working on stuff where you're like, okay, I see everything through the lens of project management now. I don't know why, it just happens that way. So I was like, okay, if we can create a system that does this, and this, and for me, it became about I was given a goal by the medical team of we want to rule out anything else. So it
Mm.
became like this concept of creating a baseline to say, could it be an environmental factor that's causing these issues? Could it be a medication that's causing these issues? Could it be, like something like diet, or could it be
Right.
exercise, or could it be an allergy? There's so many things you have to rule out. So it's like your house MD for a minute. You're trying to just do a differential diagnosis of, is it the pigeon poop on the roof that's causing this problem, or is it? So you know what I mean? It's like that. It's a very specific episode call out to the house MD,
Right.
but it was it was thinking through all these things that I became, if I'm being totally honest, I became obsessed with it. Like it
Yeah.
really became an obsession of, I want to help my mom, I want to fix this. There's got to be something that's causing it. So there's got to be
Right.
something that either we're not paying attention to or it's not. And so I went through the entire journey of
Oof.
struggling to find this magical needle in a haystack, of trying to figure out
Right.
what's the one lever, what's the one dial, what's the one thing I can do that'll just completely fix this problem. And
Mm.
that, if I'm being honest, was the beginning of my downfall as a caretaker. Which
Wow.
fortunately I'm moving out of that pattern. But boy, oh boy, was that rough, because I just made it harder
Wow.
on everybody around me. I made it harder on myself. I made it harder on my mom. To what capacity she can do that. But in the mix of all that disaster, and I say disaster because I think I became a walking disaster for part of it. But
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
midst of all of that, there were some really beautiful breakthroughs that I was able to experience with the help of therapy, with the help of amazing doctors and experts, with the help of friends and supportive loved ones. So
Yeah.
it has been a journey, and it definitely has reminded me, how love can take so many different shapes and forms, and how
Mm.
care and
Mm.
support and like all of those things can happen. So it's been weirdly beautiful, if I can say it that way. But
Mhm. Mhm.
it's just
Yeah.
been, it's opened my eyes, I think, to a lot of things that I wasn't expecting.
Wow. And it's okay for you to say weirdly beautiful. I think that
Perfect.
I think that everyone who I've talked to, we talked a little bit about our family's journey with our grandmother, with my grandmother, my father's mother, who also suffered from dementia. That it is Star Trek, the undiscovered country, right. I mean, it is it is new. It is something that you're completely not expecting, and now you have to develop this whole new sense of living, and so it is weird. It's weird. It's surreal.
Mhm.
It's beautiful. It's, all these things mixed up at once. Sheila, what was your experience with first which loved one was it, and then what was your initial experience with that loved
So I went through this process with both parents who are
one? Oh
now
wow,
deceased.
wow,
So we began with my dad having Alzheimer's. I couldn't even tell you the dates of when. Oh, actually, everything relates to being a parent and a caretaker at the same time. But I remember,
right.
so I know my daughter was 16. She just got her license but fortunately, so what happened with us is that I suppose my mom was cognitive about the process before us because they were already in with geriatrics and being my dad was being tested. And so my mom took on the earlier work and she was saying they put her in a study as well. So because of that, they had a baseline for my mom early on. And so when it became apparent for me that, okay, this is serious and um, we're going to need to move in more directly. So they were moving and they organized a move from where they were living into a facility that was still independent living, but there was someone there. It was for people over 60 or something and functioning or over whatever age. Um,
Hmm.
and as we were moving them, as we were packing them and moving, something happened and my dad like almost like his fist clenched and he started yelling. And this is a man who has been
Wow.
so passive my whole life. And it was directed at my mom. And my mom's been the one that, gets to run the shots pretty much because, whatever you want, Marcia, kind of was my dad saying. And all of a sudden I saw all this suppressed rage come out and he didn't have the wherewithal to control it anymore. Whether he should have or not, I don't know. But I thought, oh, mom's in danger here. Like, if this is
Oh
going this
wow.
direction, it would, you know, he could hurt her. And
Right.
that was my wake up call for, okay, we need to pay more attention. And so we were more and more involved from that point on, but my mom was still pretty in my dad. That was one of the very few times that my dad came out in aggression throughout the whole thing. His love just got bigger and bigger. Um, and so we were focused on my dad, but we were also being frustrated with my mom, like, well, I told you that, and all these little things coming up and starting to wonder. And I was at an appointment because by then we were going to the appointments with him. So we were in the geriatrics appointment for my dad, and they had done a scan of my mom's brain because of just the process they were doing with her. And the doctor came in like ghost white, and she said, "Did you have a stroke? Do you have any kind of, has she done anything? Have you noticed any limbs move?" And there wasn't. And she was blown away that the dementia in my mom, which was frontal temporal lobe dementia, um, had escalated like huge. So my mom was, and that is
Wow.
something that declines
Wow.
very quickly, but this was extreme. So we went from caring for my dad and kind of relying on my mom to now my mom is in this very different dementia with very different attributes that we had to learn and navigating caring for both of them and keeping them safe and going through all the systems. And Mooney, what you said is it is weirdly beautiful, chaotically beautiful,
Mm.
Right.
frighteningly beautiful. And you're
Right.
laughing and you're crying and you want what's best and you're grieving because it's a continual grieving of the
Yeah.
person you
Yeah.
knew
Yeah.
step by step. It's
Yeah.
years and years of grieving your parents or your loved one's death over and
Yeah.
over and over.
Yeah.
And feeling responsible, we can go into some of the examples more in it
Yeah.
but Mooney and I were talking yesterday, and that's kind of what sparked our thought of this is about how you get the car away from them when it's not safe. So maybe we want to talk
Ooh.
about that after break, because that is one
Yeah.
example that everybody has to go through.
Yeah, let's take a quick break, everybody. We're gonna stick on this topic. We're gonna talk about that part. I think that is like this gradual but necessary process where the person who has this disease has to move from independence to dependence, because it's absolutely necessary for them to have support from someone else, right? And that is a journey of itself. So listen, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with more of Soulivity Today in just a second. You can find all of the Satana products at our Go shop at go.soulivity.com. Hey, and we're back with more here on Soulivity Today. Back with us is also Mooney and Sheila Applegate as we talk about the facts about the 55 million people that are living with Alzheimer's and other dementias here specifically in America. One aspect I think that gets overlooked, we were just kind of talking about this in the last segment, where people who are battling this disease, it's absolutely necessary over time that they have ongoing and constant support from others. And this support can appear in a myriad of different ways. I mean, Sheila, you were talking about um, the fact when they can't drive anymore, right? And my grandmother forever loved going everywhere. She loved going shopping, and not just shopping for like clothes and stuff like that. She would do all the grocery shopping. For her, it was an experience, right? Talking to the different vendors. Oh, hi, Miss Johnson. Oh, hi, Jay. Da 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 da. And they're having all these conversations, right? That was her way of connecting with the world. And when she couldn't do that anymore, and oh man, that was something. That was something. I'm sure, Sheila, you have a story you want to tell.
Yeah. So, like I said, we were talking about the cars, and as we were talking right now, I'm remembering, my dad, and this is impressive. He had a lifelong membership to one of the first gyms that ever opened. It was called Sundown then, and then
Wow.
it got sold out to the bigger ones. And that you have to keep a lifelong by going all the time. So even after we know he's got Alzheimer's and we're trying to navigate, now we're focusing on my mom as well. He's driving into another town because they've now moved over to work out several days a week. But he had muscle memory. He knew where to go. He knew his area. He
Oh,
could go do it. But, at that point, but then, they're having little accidents. And of course, they think it's other people's faults. This is both my mom and my dad at this point.
right,
And,
right.
um, and then you just don't know. So, I mean, I'm getting terrified. I have a good imagination, but like there were certain situations where I was like, he could kill someone And then not only would they have to live with that grief, what if he ends up in jail? So I'm like picturing my dad with Alzheimer's in jail
Timers in.
because of it,
Oh
yeah,
my
which I
God.
think is probably extreme, but you're in extreme when you're in these situations, I think,
Right.
so we send them to AAA, who has a wonderful program where they'll test to see if older people are still safe driving. They passed. We're like, what? So they've just got ammunition that, okay, they can
Oh
be
yeah.
out
Oh
on the
no, we
road,
passed. We're
so.
good. We're good. What you talking about?
And then there's, then
Oh
sibling
my
stuff.
goodness.
So family stuff comes up too, right? So anything that's unhealed or suppressed in a family of siblings at this point, it's coming up.
Ooh.
And so my sister, who wasn't living locally, she's, not getting the same perception. I have to say, I couldn't have survived without my sisters. We got through all of the little things. We had a good base. But you're getting different perspectives. So one's like, oh, let him drive, earlier on. And we're like, no, you can't. So eventually, after lots of different tries, my mom was driving down a hill and she thought she told us this speedometer had gone up to 100, even though she didn't push on the gas. And we're like, what? So we took the car from her. We're like, okay, this is our chance. So we'll
Right.
go
Right.
test the car, right? We think that she read it wrong. But we took it to my brother-in-law's farm and we said, well, Andy's going to fix it. He's going to look at it. And so
Right.
we're
Right.
like
Right.
delaying. They're asking, has Andy done it? Well, he's busy. We're going on and on. And then finally, like, oh yeah, he checked it and it's really bad and we don't have the money to fix it, But there's, so we're hiding the car. And then Mooney has a great story about this too. So I'm going to pass it on to Moon.
Oh my goodness, I feel like there's so many similarities. But yeah, it's the same thing. It's like we get to this point where I mean, Sheila, exactly the same thoughts went through my mind of like, oh gosh, what happens if she crashes and gets hurt? Okay, what happens if she crashes
Hmm.
and gets hurt and hurts somebody else? Okay, what happens if she crashes and gets hurt and then like really hurts somebody else and there's legal consequences? Like, what do you do? How does
Right.
that work? What does it look like? And then you spin into like, a horrible episode of Law and Order. I don't know why all of my like worst thoughts go towards television,
Bong
but anyway,
bong.
yeah. And
You
it's
lived
like
in
you should have
Hollywood.
known. Yeah, I know it's probably why. But it was this thing. It was like it was a battle for whatever reason. That was the one thing that was like the symbol of her independence,
Hmm.
the symbol of
Right.
her
Yeah.
Right.
freedom, and so
Yes.
and there was
Yes.
like a little bit of paranoia about where's my car. And so anytime it was mentioned, it would set off a chain reaction. And you talk about, let's go there. I love, Sheila, that you had an amazing experience with your siblings and handling all this. I have not. I could have
Hmm.
had like the complete opposite, because if they don't want to believe that it's happening, they will find anything to point out
Hmm.
that, oh no, it's
Right.
not so bad.
Right.
But so
Right.
one of my siblings loves to bring up the issue of the car with my mom whenever he's talking to her
Oh
or
no.
visiting, and it sets off
Ooh.
this whole cycle of like, then it's like, well, I don't know why he took my car. He took my car. So I've had to come up with, and I think the phrase for this, Sheila, you mentioned, is like the compassionate lie. In these
Yeah.
instances, it's okay, right? So like in this moment of
Right.
like, instead of it being a fight and saying, well, you've got this and you're taking your car away, and like that aggressive that posture, it really has to be something that can just be smoothed over. So as far as anyone's concerned, my car's been in the shop for months because they can't figure out what's wrong with it, so I need to borrow my mom's car so that I can get around and do things. And that seems to be the only way that I can like pull the juice out of, where's my car, why don't I have my car? And it
Right.
seems to be working for now, but I get tons of questions. What's it doing? Is it doing this? Is it doing that? It is it's, I don't know. I want to say it's like easier on her for sure to be able to
Right.
tell that compassionate lie, but it's so much easier on
Hmm.
me to not have to keep coming up with
Right.
different reasons or fighting the same
Right.
fight or having the same conversation, or just having to like constantly loop around over and over again. And then
Right.
part of it also became like, "Oh, mom, don't you want to help me? Like, I need help. I need help with the car because my car's not, they can't figure out what's wrong with it, and it's in the shop, and it's
Right.
going to take a while, and it's really expensive. So like, I just need to borrow your car so I can get around and do things." It is, I think, almost a gift in allowing her to have a moment to be compassionate again. So
Right.
I'm just trying to
Mhm.
like find the radical and extreme compassion and concern and self-care and love and patience and like all of that stuff through all of these things, and being able to say, all right, I don't like to lie normally, but this is a
Right.
compassionate
Right.
lie and I'm going to make an exception. That became a really powerful tool for me in just getting through the day in
Right.
that instance. I know, Sheila, you must have had some of those too. I think that's like, that should be on the first page of whatever they give when they give a manual to someone who's
Right.
helping a loved one with
And I
Alzheimer's.
The
It's like,
compassionate
lying is
lie.
okay.
Right. Right.
we
Right.
actually
And
went to the Alz we went to the Alzheimer's Association in Central New York. We just went once because we were, they said you're doing pretty good then, but they're the ones that named it for us and taught me and said that that's something that
mm,
is healthy and needs to be done. So
right.
I think it's really
Right.
important to say that. Like, I think it
Right.
was them. I
Right.
don't want to say it if they didn't, but it was definitely from professionals that this is compassion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, if the term white lie is this is like perfect, right? It's really
Mhm.
light and love toward your loved one, because they're not supposed to be driving. They're not supposed to be, we talked about offline about my grandmother would cook. That was her thing, her thing, her thing, her thing. That's how she got strokes. Other in
Mhm.
addition to going out driving and seeing other people. Well, she would forget things were on the stove. And so my uncle had to, like, either if she was cooking, he had to be in the kitchen with her, talking to her and that kind of thing for a
Right.
minute. But then it was getting where she, how she had this process of cooking. I mean, where she knew how to start certain things at certain times and then everything would be ready at the same time, right? I mean, that's the mark of
Mm.
a great cook or chef, right? Where they're cutting
Mhm.
up this while this is happening and this and that, and they have it down to the minute, right? Where everything is ready to go on the table at the same time. Well, as you guys probably guessed, that wasn't happening because that part of her, like, in terms of the process and all that stuff, was starting to wane and things were getting burned and that kind of thing. And then my uncle just had to step in and start doing the cooking. And then um, the the beautiful lies would start where, you know, I really didn't have a chance to go to the grocery store today. So why don't we go out to eat?
Mm.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, right? Where she didn't have to feel something around not cooking, right? Because that was her way of
Mhm.
giving love to the family. And it would be an experience where she could get out and, hey, get dressed, go and get dressed up. We're gonna go out to dinner tonight, because typically that would be
Mhm.
the thing, right? For her. Oh, we're gonna get dressed up, we're going out. And so yeah, I thank you both for sharing that, sharing those stories. Um, Listen, we're gonna take a quick break. But I think for both of you, when we come back, one thing I want to ask about is advice. Everybody has advice, right? And I'm sure there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so we're going to talk about that when we come back right after this quick break. We'll be back in about 2 minutes.
Do you see me kneeling on this dual roller called Parasetter? It's actually comfortable because of this channel and the softness of the special foam. It feels like my kneecaps are being massaged. When I lie down, my spine is housed in this channel, while the convex rollers massage my muscles. They let go and lengthen. There's a traction effect from my head on the headrest and my mid-back from the rib wrap, which hugs me. When I start the breathing sequence, I feel calm because my cortisol levels are dropping. Lower cortisol means bye-bye constant hunger. Parasetter is 40 inches long and much more comfortable than old-style rollers, but it weighs only 10 ounces. Parasetter, just like Pilates was, is no longer an insider secret. Do yourself a favor. Reset your parasympathetic nervous system. Defeat stress. Lying, sitting, kneeling, or standing. This unique patented roller helps everyone.
Six years ago, when I started Soulivity, my vision was to support everyone in improving their life through the discovery of their passion and purpose, so they could become the best version of themselves, to battle fear and ignorance, and create a better world today. Get inspired to live your passion and purpose. Visit Soulivity.com now.
Hey, we're back with more here on Soulivity today. Today we are talking about the facts of the 55 million people living with Alzheimer's and other dementias here in America. And back with us is Sheila Applegate and our very special guest co-host Muni. Muni, I'm sure that over these years of being a caregiver, that you have gotten all kinds of advice.
Oh
Some
boy.
good, some
Yeah.
bad. So we'll start with the best. What's the best advice that you've got from someone around us?
Okay, so it's a tie. So
Okay.
there's two things that were the best advice, and they were both equally have kept me sane through this period of time. The first one was from my mom's geriatrician, she herself was struggling with this with her own father. So she's treating people and helping patients, and then also dealing with it in her own life. And she told me, she said, it's okay to get mad, and it's okay to, have a reaction or have an emotion, or get into a fight or whatever it is, because in 15-45 minutes she's not going to remember. So there's like there's a little,
Right.
you have a
Right.
little bit of wiggle room to to get the frustration out. It's not the best strategy, but if you slip up or you have a bad day, it's not the end of the world, because she probably won't remember. So that was like amazing to get the relief from that. And then, because I was always afraid of, like, yeah, like if I said the wrong thing, or if I got frustrated or I got upset, like, oh, am I being a bad, son or a bad caregiver? And it was like, no, this is totally normal. You're a human being. You're allowed to mess up. And then, in relation to that, I think the other bit of advice that I got was, especially for my mom, I don't know if this is for everybody, they become very, very good at reading social cues. They become very good at reading micro expressions. So if you enter the house in a negative attitude or a negative mood, or stressed out or angry or whatever, they're going to see it and they're going to reflect it back to you. And so it has
Right.
become just an exercise in management of my own state and emotions, which we should be doing
Mm,
anyway, right? So like the
right.
meditation, the
Right.
self-care, like
Mhm.
the creating the balance, the breathing, the eating good foods, and exercising, and trying to like make time and space for that. It comes down to that whole, like, you got to put your oxygen mask on first before helping other people thing that I've talked about and I always talk about. In this, it's like even more acute. If you go in there
Mhm.
with messy energy, you will get messy energy back. If you go in there centered and grounded, you can help center and ground the energy of what's going on. So what I'm finding now in this kind of this new approach of dealing with them is, like, you can't bring up the past, they don't remember. You can't bring up what happened
Mhm.
yesterday, they don't remember. It really is an exercise in being present and being in the present moment. You talk about cooking. My mom loves to cook. She can't do it on her own. So
Right.
I have now turned it
Right.
into one of our rituals, that I'll take her to the grocery store. We'll buy everything we need to buy. We'll come back. We'll cook it. We don't really have to talk. We're just keeping track of what's going on. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
really requiring anything of her. She's not requiring anything of me, but we can just be in the kitchen, hanging out and doing that together. And that to me is a great exercise for us to be able to do that.
Wow.
And it's just kind and compassionate. And it doesn't require us to do anything or think about anything or talk about anything outside of, did we put salt in it? Yes, we did. Did we put the tomatoes? Yes, we did. Did we do this? Yes, we did. And then at some point, like you were saying, she'll say, I need to go sit down. And then I take over. And then she'll come back and do the final adjustments on the
Right.
seasonings. And then we're done. Right. And it was
Right.
a low stress. We didn't have to bring up anything about the past. We didn't have to like hash
Right.
anything out. She wasn't
Right.
agitated about anything because she was distracted doing something. I
Right.
wasn't agitated because I get to see my mom, be competent and proficient in something again. Uh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it was just a beautiful moment, but like it really is educating me on compassion and unconditional love and patience and like all of these things. And then not only is it helping me do that for her, it's helping me do that for me as well. So
Right.
there's that level of like, okay, this is definitely, if you want to look at it this way, it's not happening to me, it's happening for me. And so what is this? What is the bigger picture thing here? What is it that I need to learn? And for me, it was like forgiveness and like all of those things we've been talking about. You have to let this stuff go. We don't have the most perfect
Wow.
relationship. We haven't had the most perfect relationship. But the way that I have to look at it is that person who did all of those things that I had all those things, that issues with, doesn't really exist anymore. And now I just have this present moment relationship that I have to keep staying
Mhm.
in that present moment. And it's kind of a gift to be able to do that and do it
Right.
for as long as I'm doing it now, because it teaches you so much.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Sheila, what was the best advice that you received?
Um, so the best advice that I received was from my cousin who also dealt with it with both parents. And they're not in
Voila.
the and it's not even like you would think, oh, and yes, we've had doctors, when doctors saw my sisters and I with both parents, their eyes bulged and they're like, be careful to us, which is not a really pleasant thing to have them say to you,
Right.
meaning like,
Right.
you're gonna
Right.
get this, right? And so my cousin, it's not biological. It was wild because the type of dementia that they got wasn't in relationship to the same genes. So anyway,
Right.
um, so he had gone through it with his dad first, and he said it was something that a nurse had told him, and it was, when you're making your choices, make the choices on what's best for the youngest generation. Because we're talking about sandwich, this is a term that I remember my mom going through. They use it usually on women because we're more likely to be the caretaker, but it goes for anyone. But that time period when you are still raising children and now raising your parents, or being the
Right.
primary
Right.
caretakers for your parents. And so it's a constant decision, like the littlest things, right? Like, my parents love going to my children's concerts or, theater productions, things like that. But
Yeah.
at some point, you have to make each point, you have to make the decision. Am I going to take my parents, be stressed out, miss my kid, and we did
Right.
take them to most things, but at some point you have to make a choice, and it's over and over. Which one are you choosing for? So choose for the youngest. Um, was a really good it's a hard decision, but it's a really good decision that I
Yeah.
experienced. And then Mooney, just talking about the forgiveness, and that it's okay to lose control with them or to get angry. I needed to hear that all these years later. My
Woo.
parents died
Yeah.
in 2019 and 2020. I'm still going through years of recovery. I also thought I was doing really good with self-care during that time. Like I was growing, I was caring for myself, but the best you can do, there's recovery time after for the caregivers.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I have had 3 years of recovering from it for sure, but I still have moments that I have not forgiven myself. So it was a good reminder,
Wow.
little things where I wasn't as gentle, or of what I got a tattoo when my parents were already in the dementia. And so I just didn't tell them because I knew they wouldn't have approved. I'm an adult, 55 years old, right? So one day my mom sees the tattoo on my back, and this is not a compassionate lie. This is a selfish lie. She sees the tattoo, and I'm like, "What do you mean? I've had it for by then I had it for a while, but I'm like, I've had it." Like she's the one going crazy. I'm gonna forgive myself for that.
Oh, that's good. you know, as we're as we're talking about these different experiences, and there's one through line even in the last half an hour or so, we've all been laughing, right? And
Mhm.
this humor and this lightheartedness, I think, has been one way that I know my uncle used to move through a lot of things. It sounds like the same with you. While we have a little bit of time left, and Mooney, I'll go to you first. I know humor was a tool for you. What were some one or two other kind of tools that you used to keep yourself sane specifically?
Oh, yeah, I'm still using them. I think therapy is really important because there's a lot of conversations that are above the pay grade of friends, when it comes to
Yeah,
this, because
yeah,
it's just a constant
yeah.
thing. It doesn't go
Mhm.
away. I actually had a friend tell me that, which is how I got into therapy in the first place, is she said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, this conversation is above my pay grade." So that was the point
Nice.
which I was like, all right,
I'm going to
I
use
think it's
that.
time. So, and it was great because it was like a friend telling me their boundaries in a loving and gentle way and me
Mhm.
acting on it. But I think the therapy has helped a lot in in dealing with the unfairness of it, or dealing with like the pressure of it, or dealing with like the
Yeah,
unresolved, things about. I had one therapist when I first started out because I was struggling with not wanting to be here for it. I was like, I could leave at any moment and just not deal with it, and then I could just ignore it like everybody else. And this one very grumpy therapist said, "I'm going to save you a lot of time. You could leave and you'd still be a good person." And I was like, had a huge emotional release after that because I just needed to know that, like,
wow.
even if I even if I left and didn't
Mhm.
deal with it, it wouldn't make me a bad person. But then it also empowered me to make the choice to stay. And so we talk about,
Right.
like,
Mhm.
one of my biggest aha breakthroughs is through the Landmark Forum, when they teach you the difference between a decision and a choice. And the
Right.
decision process is, I only have this. I've killed off
Right.
every other opportunity, and I'm left with this least horrible thing. Versus I'm actively choosing it. And the minute even in the moments, the worst moments, I remind myself, I'm choosing this, I'm choosing this, I'm choosing this, I'm choosing this.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
empowering for that tool of choice versus decision, or being stuck with, or
Mm,
being, forced to, like, being able to even change the way I relate to all of those things, and making it a
yeah.
choice that I'm actively choosing, has been the tool to end all tools to get through all of
Mm,
this, is to make sure that I
wow.
just keep reminding myself I am choosing this.
Oh man, I love that. I love that. Sheila, what's really quickly, what's one of the tools that you've used to kind of keep you sane throughout all
I would
through
say
the
focus on the emotion of the situation rather than the facts. So, like when there's looping,
mm,
try to figure out what is being said. What is it underneath there that is being said? And also be fluid with your love. For me, I highly recommend meditation and learning to communicate with them beyond the physical world. That was a life changer for me. I mean, I do that, but knowing that we could do that, communicating with my parents, and in the end, we really, really needed to because we had to say goodbye to my mom during COVID when we couldn't be with her. And so
yeah.
we were at my dad's death physically, and then with my mom, my sisters and I were in meditation as she crossed over, so we could still be there, but not physically. So let go of the facts. Like, if they feel the love for you, it doesn't matter if they're calling you by a different name, or they think you're their sister. They remember they love you, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's important. So that's what I would say. Focus on the emotion, the love, and don't limit yourself to the facts or the physical communication, because they're not limited anymore. They're free. They're all over the place. beyond time
Wow.
and beyond space.
Wow. I love that. I love that. I love all of it actually. Thank you for that. Thank you both for that. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. So we've got more Soulivity today coming up. So we're going to take this break and we'll be right back with Muni and Sheila and myself as we talk about dementia and Alzheimer's. We'll be right back.
Hi there, Sheila Applegate here with some exciting news. I've joined the incredible Soulivity team as the host of the new Consciously Awesome live show, where I will be sharing insights to help you discover your full brilliance and claim the vibrant life you deserve. So tune in every Wednesday right here on Soulivity TV to join the fun, and remember to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a single episode. Have an awesome week, and I will see you on Wednesday.
Would you like to be one of the first people to experience mental freedom? Mental freedom is a coaching practice with 6 core principles: improving hope, self-efficacy, optimism, resilience, and general well-being. Mental freedom only takes 6 sessions. It is designed to give you the tools you need to help yourself. It can help with any situation: relationship problems, past trauma, career decisions, parenting challenges, addiction, and mental health concerns. Incorporating the mental freedom framework into your life will deliver an approach to master any situation and a pathway toward achieving inner peace. Mental freedom provides the information and tools that you need to grow and be bigger than anything that ever happens to you. So if you're looking for one-on-one or a group coaching program that will allow you to address any situation that comes up in your life with practical tools to give you more peace and joy, then join the Mental Freedom Program in Soulivity's Aspire Academy. There are very limited spots available, so don't delay. I hope to see you there.
Man, we're back with more here on Soulivity today. Man, we are running out of time, y'all. Can you believe that?
It was so much
I'm like,
fun.
man, there's so
I
much,
know,
God,
too
there's
much
so
fun.
much going on. I know, right? What I'd like to do is kind of like get some final thoughts from both of you really, really quickly around this. And Mooney, I'll just go to you really quickly. Can you give us like 30 seconds?
Yeah. Oh boy, it's hard to sum that up. Okay, so what I would say is like
Yeah.
the best thing you can do in this circumstance is number one, go get help from professionals. I think that, like Sheila and I aren't doctors, so we can only share our experiences with you, but our experiences are just as important as the medical information and the confirmation is like you are an active part of this. Like whatever information's coming up, whatever directives are coming through, whatever protocols are happening, you have to also focus on yourself in that process. So if it's, hey, your mom needs more exercise or she needs to eat more high protein meal or whatever it is, think about that in terms of you as well. I need to eat healthier. I need to take care of myself. I need to find more balance. So it's like you don't just exist as the caretaker. You're like an active part of what's going on, and you deserve that self-care and that focus and that attention just as much as the person you're caring for. So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
that would be it. I'm getting emotional and I'm having like some morning congestion. But I'm saying it out loud. I'm almost saying it to myself, is that like and I'll pull this back if I have 10 seconds more, is that all of the things I was doing for self-care have fallen off just like gone off the rails. And so I'm in a moment of saying,
Mm,
okay, I'm having the alarm bells going off of saying, okay, I need to get back to the gym. I have to start eating real food. I have to take care, like, I have to breathe. I haven't meditated. Sheila, don't be mad. I haven't meditated in so long, so like, but, but cause you get to this frantic place where you're like, I don't even have time to do anything. I can't even take a shower. And,
right.
that way of doing it is not going to help anybody. So I think
Right.
that would be my final thought, is like, you have to put yourself right in the front of taking care of yourself so that you can take care of your loved one. If you don't do that, it's all going to fall apart.
Wow. Wow. I think I love that. Sheila, I think that would be probably my final thought to people. What about you?
I would just want to say, in every moment, you have a choice between fear and love. Do your best to choose
Mm,
love.
Aw,
yeah.
that's perfect. That's really perfect.
And
Listen,
I'm going to
why don't
jump
we
in
get
with
to
one final thought.
yeah, go
One thing
real
I
quick,
forgot I was going
real
to say.
quick.
Okay, learn how to ask for help, but be very specific in what kind of help you need. Because like saying I need help without details doesn't get you the help that you need, but being helped specifically is important. So learn how to ask for help specifically.
Oh, perfect. I love that. I love that too. Gosh, you guys are so good. Um, listen, really quickly, while we get to some shameless plugs here, just want to remind everybody, Mooney has a fantastic website. Mooney, spread your wings and become a spiritual entrepreneur. I think that kind of sums it all up. Really quickly, do you have anything that's going on that people need to know about? Right, really quickly, like, can you give 15 seconds?
Yes, absolutely. So we're gonna have a bunch of stuff starting up in 2024 to plan out, to map, to launch and grow your spiritual business. So sign up for the newsletter, check out the social media, join our private Facebook group, get connected with a bunch of other people that are doing similar things to you, and see what's possible.
All right, perfect. I love that. And Sheila, you and our beautiful Helena are part of this great 7 days of joy, rest, and reweaving wholeness experience. It's absolutely free. Can you talk quickly about this?
Yep, we're going to start 2024 with 7 days of joy. It is an online gathering in conjunction with 7 days of rest, which is global. Join us, go to joykeepers.org/7days to find out more and sign up. And we'll be telling you more
Perfect.
as we get closer.
Oh man. Well, listen, we're running out of time. Thank you to both of you for this great discussion today. There's going to be more to come with this in the future. I think we're going to come back and talk about this a little bit more with both of you. But listen, everybody, we're running out of time. Just want to say thank you to all of you for joining us today. This is how we do it here on Soulivity today. And we'll see you next time right here at 8 a.m. Eastern and Pacific. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly